It really has been a long project. Bono has been looking for a way of playing in the round 360 outdoors for years.
Our idea was really to have the audience be on the stage there with you. We learned that in the mid-'80s, and we've been trying to figure a way to do it outdoor since.
16th of June, 9:05, doorbell rings. Man at the door says, I want to stay alive a bit longer. There's a few things I need you to know.
I remember back on Zoo TV, Bono saying that the thing about good ideas is they get better by themselves. And really, this idea, this is such a strong statement. And everybody understood immediately why we should be doing this.
Find the courage to walk out into the street with my arms out. Gotta love you, put your feet neither down or out. There's nothing you have that I could breathe.
I remember very clearly the first time I saw the production, the 360 production in Barcelona, and it was pretty amazing. It was a kind of jaw-dropping moment to see this thing in the stadium.
It's a little on the small side, but I can't wait to get up there and check it out from on stage.
It's very difficult to play in the round or 360 degrees outdoors because there's nothing to hang the stuff off.
Because so much of the structure is up high, when you're at pitch level, and it was the first thing Bono said, well, you look around and there's kind of nothing there because it's all up there.
Willie called me when they just built the stage in Barcelona, and they had most of it up. He said, if you stand at your microphone, you put your hand out, you feel you can touch the back of the stadium, which was, he said, I think it's going to work.
Hello.
I remember when I first saw it.
Wow.
It had this very odd feeling because the structure is so big and it fills the stadium in an odd way. The stadium becomes intimate because it's looking at this large object and everything else is smaller.
In general, the whole idea of U2 is to engage with our audience. We've always tried to do it, and in some ways the reason we haven't done stadiums for such a long time was that we hadn't quite figured out how to do it and how to really engage with the audience, and that's what's special about this show. It's in 360, and the audience are such a big part of what we do.
Dallas, come on, give us a guitar. I don't want a guitar. Give me a guitar, any.
It is impossible
Wow.
engineering.
That's amazing.
Because obviously you can play in the round easily indoors because you hang everything from the roof. It's hard to hang stuff from the sky. It's hard to hang a PA from the sky.
Yeah, be careful where you aim. 'Cause you just might hit. This'll work.
Muchachitos, are you ready? Uno, dos, tres, get going!
I remember Bono getting forks at a dining room table and connecting them together to see if there was a way that we could create a structure for the PA and lighting.
And kind of built how it might possibly work, but just as a sort of, as an idiot, you know, not understanding the engineering implications.
And it was our designer, Willie Williams, who came up with a kind of eureka moment.
The real breakthrough moment of reverse logic was realizing that instead of trying to make this thing smaller, what we should do is to make it so big that it just becomes part of the building.
This conversation with Willie started in sketches which I would take and scan while I'm on the road and email to Willie, and we'd talk about. So some of the most interesting ones that show how this thing was evolving were, they were always coming out with arched feet. What went on at the top was a subject of a lot of conversation about, is it decorated, is it functional? I'm drawing things where these feet are 60 meters apart on the ground and the PA is big and hanging up there, not as big as it became by the time Joe Hurley had finished with it.
You're on. 1, 2. Oh, Joe, can you hear me? Put up your hand.
Oh, there you go.
It's pretty cool, Joe. It's cool because you're so close. Based on that, we're expecting the sound to be 50% better than it's ever been before. No pressure, Joe, but I'm sure you're...
There's an age-old audio gag that says they don't go home humming the lights, do they? So I suppose they have to depend on the sound.
The quality of the sound was a kind of unexpected win that came about again because of the concept of the design of drawing everything into this central location, and because of that, the sound was all emanating from a single point.
The entire stage is ringed with bass and a full-range speaker system to accommodate the people that are in the immediate barricade area here. Now, when you go further out into the area where the rest of the 3,500 people, they are accommodated with audio directly down from the speaker system itself overhead here. As the sound comes down, it integrates with the sound that's coming out of here, so that there is a sensation of the sound actually emanating from the stage area itself. So people feel at one with the stage rather than a sound coming from various different locations. I'm not at liberty to put a wattage on it, but it's a lot.
The main structure is built in Belgium. There's a company called Stageco who are responsible for most of the big touring constructions that you've ever seen. It's a huge jigsaw puzzle and everything has to fit in exactly the right place. I mean, there's no room for margin of error.
Wow. It really does look like the Eiffel Tower at the bottom of our...
This thing didn't exist. It had to be built. And we had to start building it a year before the tour.
We knew that what we had proposed was stupendously difficult by the standards of even the complicated rock shows we've done in the past.
This is the one you set up in the intermission, which is a...
It's always amazing when you see what Mark and Willie have kind of dreamed up, because not only do you see a shape that you've looked at for a long time in various forms and realize that as a piece of engineering, it all has to fit into a truck.
Because of the membrane, because of the tensile skin that we wanted to put on it, it became necessary to build a physical model, because you're trying to understand how a membrane, when it's stretched two ways, will work. So I got the base model made and then spent a couple of weeks fiddling with this lycra material until I got to a shape which dealt with everything that I knew that we wanted to do. And the material that it's made from is this black on the back, pleasant shade of green on the other side. It's a very strong woven fabric that is then cut and welded to make this structure.
Story ends. Gonna last with you longer than your friends.
Pop Mart, which was the last worldwide stadium extravaganza. Coming off that, we went into really indoor arena presentations in the US and Canada.
She is a candle burning in my room.
while the rest of the world pretty much maintained its stadium presentation, which required us to create two shows, basically, an indoor show and an outdoor show.
We wanted our American audience to see that outdoor show. We hadn't played like that since the 90s. But we also wanted the European audience to get that 360 feeling that we had in the US.
It was much more his vision. You know, he is that kind of a performer. I think probably the rest of us would be happy to stand on an old beer crate, to be honest. But, you know, he's the person working the stage.
You know, most performers, for most of their lifetime, that you've been playing psychologically to your front of house, to your sound man and your lights man. And most performers, immediately, they just grab their audience in. But when you walk out here, they're there. There's 30,000 there, there's 30,000 there, there's 30,000 there, and there's 30,000 there. So the head trip and to get the 360 philosophy is a pretty tough thing. There's a bit of sleight of hand involved, because by moving all the gear up away from you and over you, you're just left with a little punk rock band there in the middle.
The idea that for the first time ever, we'd have to think about the stage as being a 360-degree area rather than a 180 was the right kind of throwdown for us.
You know, when you look at it compared to a normal stage, you think, oh, you know, it's a big physical thing. But in fact, what you do is you get great energy wherever you are, because, you know, the front of stage is, there's so many more people that have access to it.
They often quite like to face each other, just to become a band, because they can be so far apart. There are times when they need to come back together, and they'll face each other. And if that was in a regular situation, Bono would have his back to the audience. Whereas now, wherever they're facing, even if they're looking towards each other, there's still audience that's seeing them front on, which is great.
Holy cow. Batman.
The screen came about through Frederick Opsommer, who's our LED specialist. He's been around since Zoo TV, and really has been the brains behind all of our LED adventures over the years.
The answer clearly was something that is small and minimal when it's just there, and then becomes big. Being small and minimal keeps the transparency of the structure with the four legs and so on. And then when you expand it, it becomes a monumental piece, a set piece, in fact, that can do its own purpose. I got Chuck Hoberman involved to see where can we make something expandable.
Chuck's the man invented these, the expanding and contracting sphere. Frederick said to Willie, well, what you do is one of these, but you put LEDs all over it. And so bingo, suddenly the three of us knew what we were doing, and you know, we had the sketches, we had the whole thing within a few days.
Which was very exciting. At that point, it became very much a U2 idea. The easiest way of doing it would have been if it had been a perfectly round cylinder that expanded. But Mark insisted that, first of all, it should be saddle-shaped. It's elliptical and it's saddle-shaped, so when it opens, it becomes a cone. But of course, it makes the whole thing an absolute nightmare to conceive and build.
You still need video, and we wanted an extraordinary screen. You know, a conical screen is hard to figure, and I believe it was Frederic and his team in Belgium that called it the friet sack, or the chip basket.
But it all starts with this pixel. A number of these panes together form a bigger panel, and then 96 of these bigger panels form this entire structure. LEDs are supposed to run for 100,000 hours, which I believe is about 24 hours a day during 13 years or something.
So we're kind of pretty up to speed on the new technology, but this was a real first, a dynamic screen that could change shape, move, and particularly in that kind of conical shape.
This is a big prototype, never been done before. Yeah, just make it and see what happens. And so it's a bit of a scary moment to see if all the calculations are right and if everything fits as we planned.
U2 fans know that U2 are interested in production. They've always done a big show. From the very early days when it was just a backdrop. We did whatever we could to make the show visually exciting, and a couple of times, like with Zoo TV and Pop Mart, and the more recent shows, we really changed the game for everyone.
Do you think that the audience is getting something out of this?
Yeah, they're coming to a rock and roll gig and watching television. I think that, I mean, what more can you ask for?
When we did Pop Mart was the start of the LED revolution in big stadium and arena rock shows that has now been so commodified by all the other bands taking it over that every show you see is video.
Now the tradition is that you have your big art screen and then some side screens for what they call IMAG, which is image magnification. So basically you have the band on little side screens and then all the art's going on in the middle. Whereas what we've done effectively is reduced it to one screen. It's a very big and very clever screen, but it is one screen, which for me, moving the goalpost like that really made it much more interesting.
This, your line of sight was the same. You weren't constantly doing this, which is the experience that most people have at stadium shows when the screens are out left and right. Pretty soon into the tour, we realized that it was just a wonderful way for people at the back of the stadium to really stay in tune with what we were doing.
Your eyes as black as coal.
Clearly video remains a very important part, but it couldn't be the focus of this show.
With a conical screen, you can create the illusion of something going all the way around. So for video artists like Run Rake, he could actually just get lost in it.
Don't look back, for here
For Catherine Owens, it was just a different kind of canvas.
Before, with screens, we could make independent content that could be sort of used or not used. This is a lot more choreographed. There's concepts that come from the band, and these are all elements that then will be translated into this scale and format.
We still want to continue on our conversations that we have developed over the last couple of tours, especially the more political, socially aware conversations that we like to bring to everybody.
Rather than where Bono would actually be the campaigner for the one campaign, say, we are now integrating that more from a video point of view rather than from him.
This time it's a lovely personal message from Archbishop Desmond Tutu.
Because our voices were heard, millions more of our brothers and sisters are alive. Thanks to the miracle of AIDS drugs and malaria drugs.
A lot of the video content has been stripped back, but there are moments, big video moments and interactive moments.
So there comes a point when it just becomes this giant art experience that does what you've never seen any other screen do before in your life.
Because we saw this as a kind of space station, we had these ideas about using it to connect with the international, a real space station, and especially touched by Frank de Win, Commander Frank de Win, reciting the lyrics of In a Little While. It was a strange coincidence that the lyrics in that song were, a man dreams one day to fly.
A man takes his rocket ship into the skies. He lives on a star that's dying in the night and follows in the trail, the scatter of light.
It's one thing out of my mouth, hearing it out of his mouth. That's a very touching moment.
Thank you for joining us this evening. Safe home.
I wasn't holding my breath that we would actually do it because there are a few fairly major hurdles to overcome. One of the most practical ones being whether this thing was tourable. And Jake Berry, our production manager, he went out and did a site visit to all of the major stadiums that we were likely to play to talk to them about how they felt about having 200-ton cranes on the field. And I was quite surprised that he came back with a clean bill of health. It all seemed like it was possible.
That little piece there is just going to have to be tighter. Everybody says, how do you feel about the first show? I'm more nervous about getting this thing to Milan, to tell you the truth, which is the second city. But, you know, look, we've all undertaken to do it. We've got to dig our heels in and go for it.
If you think about a rock show like 360 as the same scale as a gigantic action film, except you're moving location every few days. You're building a whole town, a whole city, and then you're knocking it down, putting it into trucks and moving it next day. It's quite something.
This has to be dismantled and transported to the next show. So a traveling 360-degree outdoor show, this is a world first.
Well, everything starts with a big carbon footprint. I think the goal here that we've all come to a conclusion of is how to reduce that. Live Nation Global Touring, as the producers of this tour, are fully committed to ensuring that this tour becomes a carbon neutral footprint tour. We have a lot of different ideas and plans in place, and we'll combine that with carbon credits that will eventually balance out the entire footprint over this entire 18-month world tour.
I mean, I think wherever you were, you got a great show, but quite a different show. And that was another interesting aspect of this production.
I was at the mix desk for Snow Patrol a few times, and I was out a little bit higher up for Muse and for Black Eyed Peas. And it is a different experience, but again, there is an intimacy to the way that stage works.
The people right up close in the ring were, you know, seeing us really close, and probably closer than ever before. But they weren't really getting a sense of what the screen was doing. And then the people at the very back really saw this amazing show.
The seat at the back, because I've sat on it. I've sat in every seat pretty much.
And
every single one?
nearly. Yeah, I've been busy sitting down while you've been up there playing. But honestly, while they're playing, I've gone, walked around, I'm testing it out, and it is even better right at the back.
Because of the way the sound system was developed, I think Joe did a really good job. The sound was immaculate for everyone that I heard. And I think we were getting great sound as well. And I think that's what you get in these bigger places.
From that very top tier, the sound was the best sound you probably ever get in a stadium, and the visual was incredible. It was probably, arguably, the best visual perspective of anywhere in the stadium.
There's some cameras which are on tracks that go around the stages, which Tate, the people who built the stage, designed a very ingenious little system around the B stage and the A stage. And then we have these televator cameras which allow the cameras to be up at head level or higher. There's so much kinetic movement, not only in 360, but vertically, the screen expanding and contracting, and we have to cover a lot of area and give them, the band, the freedom to move.
When you're showing camera pictures of the band, it's that connection that it gives the audience, which is so crucial, but it makes the medium itself become almost invisible. It's like when you're watching TV at home or you're sitting in a cinema, you cease to be aware of the fact that you're looking at a screen because you're so engrossed in what's going on. I'm very, very happy about that mirror ball on the top. Not least because it's the world's first lightning conductor mirror ball. And it actually does function as a lightning conductor. Because apparently that's one of our most likely dangers we have. I mean, it's unlikely, but they have had to consider lightning.
Commerce has to be creative to make this stuff work. It's not just art and science. It's not, it's culture and commerce. Live Nation really went the distance for us in making this work for our audience.
It was a very long and complex budgeting process. A lot of it was unknown, really, and it's not uncommon in these large processes where all of a sudden it's oops, and those oops can be significant in terms of costs.
From the unforgettable fire, this is Wire.
In the mid-'80s, a lot of bands would not sell seats behind the stage. U2 always did, and there was obviously an economic benefit to that for the audience as well as for the band, in that you had a bigger capacity, you could have a lower ticket price. This, in a way, is the logical extension of what we started doing then.
We decided to have a minimum of 10,000 tickets at $30 at every show. And I think it's given everybody the opportunity that wants to come, the ability to come.
When you put those tickets on sale, you're at the mercy of the public. If they don't want to come, they don't buy the tickets.
Had it have flopped on the first night, we were in some deep doo-doo.
Obviously, I worry a lot. That's my job.
Touring on this scale is like financially a huge roll of the dice. There's major jeopardy. But to us, artistic risk is the thing that we think about first, and that's like, in a sense, the worst sin would be not to take any chances.
I would put it in the following perspective in terms of the cost for this production. There's never been anything this expensive.
If you ask yourself, how much time do you spend each day when you're not thinking about either the future or the past? You spend very little time in the present moment. And a live show is an opportunity to do just that. It's an unusual situation for people to be in, where everyone's looking at the same thing and we're all in the same place. There's an energy there which becomes much bigger than the sum of its parts.
You can't repeat yourself. You can't rely on things that have been done before by anybody else. You just got to find new territory. And so, you know, every time we go into the studio, it's the same thing we're looking for. And every time we sit down to start talking about a live production, we ask ourselves the same question, which is, what's never been done?
You want to see the person that you're going to see taking a little bit of a risk to give you something unique. And I think this whole production has captured the imagination of people. It's more than just a stage.
You've got to try and give them, at the very least, something they've never seen before, or maybe more importantly, something they haven't felt before. Because in the end, for all this architecture and sci-fi stuff, if you don't feel the songs and the band, what is the point?
It's not a hell, it's a mountain. As you start out the climb, listen for me, I'll be shouting. We're gonna make it all the way to the light. But I know I'll go crazy if I don't go crazy tonight. I know I'll go crazy if I don't go crazy tonight. Every generation gets a chance to change the world. Pity the nation that won't listen to you boys and girls. 'Cause the sweetest melody is the one we haven't heard. Is it true that perfect love